getting any audio at all.
Paula, if you'd like to start the meeting.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I am Paula Nichols from Alpha Psi Pasco, and I am your Washington State Organization Executive Secretary. And we are in our Workshop 3 session. So far, everything has been going smoothly. So the one you are in right now is Advocating for Schools and Teachers. Our speakers today are Pat Bennett Foreman from Alpha Sigma Kitsap. Pat, before she was retired, was an instructional support learning specialist with the North Kitsap School District. She has experience in Title I and special education administration. Pat has been an adjunct instructor at several Washington universities in her region. She is past president of the Alpha Sigma Kitsap chapter. She served as the Washington State Editor, Communications Chair, and is currently First Vice President, Educational Excellence Chair for the Washington State Organization. Pat is active with the U.S. Forum and National Legislative Seminar and is a member of the 2012 Leadership Management Seminar class. Our other presenter for today is Keitha Bryson. She is from Iota, Mason, Thurston counties. She is also on the Washington State Organization Educational Excellence Committee. She taught at Highline School District for 36 years in K-6 special education and in general education grades K-1. As a retiree, she continued to serve as a volunteer with special needs populations. Keitha is very active in advocacy work, initially as a member of WEA, the Washington State School Retirees Association, and the League of Women Voters, but more recently with the Badass Teacher Association Quality of Work Life in Education Task Force, where she has been part of panels presenting to the U.S. Department of Education. Keitha has been an active participant in the DKG U.S. Forum and has attended 3 national legislative seminar sessions. She provides civic engagement workshops for a number of organizations and has served as our state legislative liaison for 3 bienniums. Keitha was past president of Beta Beta Seattle chapter and is now a member of Iota, Thurston, and Mason County chapter. Okay, Pat, if you are ready. Okay, our format for today, we're going to have a presentation, and then we are going to have a breakout session. We've been doing those, so everyone should be familiar with that, with a question and answer. And at the end, we will do another evaluation poll. So please make sure you stay on the line to complete that poll. That will help us for planning any other meetings that we have. Thank you. And okay, Pat.
Oh, this is I'm sorry. I have to move. There we go. I gotta move it out of the way. It says I'm muted, Terry.
You are not muted.
Okay. Trying to find this thing on my screen. Let's hope it works. Here we go. Can you see it?
No, you need to share screen.
I did
first,
that.
And then click on the item that you want to share it with us.
There you go.
There we go.
Well, no, that's not what I want.
That's all right. So just close whatever that is and find your Advocating for Schools. Double click and you should be good to go.
I should be there. Okay.
All right.
Now, but you don't have the right view. So hang on a second there. Now do we have it?
Yes, and now you're going to do show slides. There you go.
All right, I'm, okay, whoops. Sorry about that. So thank you everybody for attending. Last year, the Educational Excellence Committee began its legislative focus with two activities. One, we wanted to find out what the member priorities were and then provide information to you so that you could, as individuals, advocate for policies in this area. You identified mental health staffing for the schools and COLA increases for Plan 1 retirees. The COLA increases did go through the legislature and were signed by the governor, despite the temptation to reduce those due to COVID cost. The mental health staffing bill did not get out of committee, so that's something that's still up there for us to think about for this next year. Secondly, we ask that chapters take a few minutes to begin civic education in their chapter by asking if their members knew who their state and national legislators were and how to contact them. But it was clear from your comments that more training was desired to help members feel comfortable in the role of advocate. And so it's our purpose today to begin that training. Because we do know that advocacy can be very effective in bringing about change in local, state, and even federal policy and law. Because when we speak up, especially as a united voice, they will listen to us. So our goals today are to, one, be very clear about the benefits of advocacy and the appropriateness of advocacy for DKG members, particularly advocacy for our students and teachers. 3 areas of advocacy in legislative policy that might include funding, equity, and support services. We'll examine the differences between personal advocacy, what you as an individual can legally do, and what we might be able to do as an organization, both at the chapter and the state level. Then we'll spend some time in small groups where we will have some important conversations about what the issues are that you in your communities find most important. Recognizing that community can be many different things, from your neighborhood to your chapter, to your faculty. It can include your district, your state, your county, all sorts of things. And finally, we'll hope to introduce you to some tools and resources that will assist you on the path to becoming a strong and confident advocate. We know that that journey that you're going to be taking, like all journeys, just starts with one single step. And the tools that we'll be looking at will include ideas about how to write testimony, how to contact your legislators, how to nail that visit when you get to go in and talk to somebody, and even how to present at hearings. We'll also share some sites for resources for you to contact your legislators and on a variety of topics, including such things as voting rights with 411.org. So some of you might wonder if advocacy is even allowed within the society. So rest assured, it's not only allowed, but in fact, advocacy is mandated by the language in 2 of the DKG purposes. So Purpose 7 requires that we inform members of issues so that they might participate effectively in the world. I tutor immigrants as they're studying for their naturalization exam. And one of the most important lessons that they're asked is what they can do to participate in our democracy. And the answers include writing letters to the legislators, meeting representatives of Congress, joining a campaign or a political party, letters to the editor, and so on. Sounds an awful lot like our advocacy, doesn't it? And then purpose 4 is even more specific in that it states that one of DKG's purposes is to initiate, endorse, and support legislation in the interest of education and women educators. This includes legislation that would support students through women and children's health issues. So why should DKG have these purposes? And why should we as members attend to them? Well, first off, it's our civic duty, our responsibility to make our voices heard. This is a democracy that we live in. And it is in the domain of all of the people, the common people, and not just the wealthy or the powerful or big business. Secondly, to make our democracy work, it's important that we, the people, are the special interest and the lobby groups that our legislators attend to. Third, when we articulate our common values and discuss them with each other, and then with our decision makers, whether they're at the school board, city councils, state legislators, or Congress, when we do that, we create an environment that unites us in our common values instead of dividing us. So DKG can be a force for education and for educators. Legislators respect our group. In fact, they like us far better than they like unions. So we are the people that they will be listening to. And the more they know about us and the more they hear about us, the greater that influence is going to be, the stronger we are as a force for education and educators. And finally, by advocating and demonstrating success in doing so, we are giving something of value to our members, particularly those who are active teachers. And when they receive value from us, they want to stay as members, and other educators will want to join us. So advocacy could be our greatest recruitment tool. So, are we motivated to step up to the mic? Let's take some first steps. It's important to recognize that there are different levels of advocacy, and advocacy at each level accomplishes different kinds of goals. First, as an individual, you have the greatest freedom as to what you advocate for and to whom. You can be a force locally, at the state, or at the national level. But advocacy at the organizational level has several advantages, whether it's done by the chapter, the state, or by the U.S. Forum, which is our national voice for advocacy with DKG. It gives the individual a lot more clout if you're backed by and speaking on behalf of the organization. So, think of the power that you would have in speaking to your school board representing 35 members of your chapter, or to your state legislators representing the nearly 900 members of our state organization, or to congressional representatives where we have almost 50,000, we have over 50,000 members in the national organization. So we might not be giving decision makers money like lobbyists and PAC groups do, but we do have a lot of voting power, and they can respect that. But there are some restrictions that you need to be aware of when you advocate as an organization. So DKG is a not-for-profit 501c6 tax-exempt organization. And that means that we have to maintain political neutrality. The DKG Constitution requires that the EEC study and recommend actions on professional issues, and that we urge states to initiate, endorse, and support legislation. That legislative action has to be based on a thorough understanding of the issues that are involved in support of excellence in education, equity for women, in a safe and peaceful educational environment. Rule 8.102 continues to say that legislative action shall be concerned with educational issues, not with candidates or political parties. So any advocacy that's taken on by our chapters or by the state organization must be neutral with regard to parties or candidates. So when advocacy is desired, the state constitution or the DKG Constitution goes on to say that it can only be the result of some sort of consensus process that we go through with members. We're an organization of diverse positions and experiences, opinions, passions, values, and beliefs. So we can't adopt positions that would exclude some members, nor would we want to offend any of our members. So our positions for advocacy need to be inclusive, and they need to represent open and honest dialogue and consensus building amongst the members of our chapter and our state. And finally, our advocacy positions need to be policy driven. That can be policy, law related to policy, but not to individuals. So advocacies can be hard work, and sometimes it's a slow grind, but it really is important work. I'd like you to take a minute, well, even less, I'd like you to take a minute here and proceed to discuss, before we proceed, to just do a quick check. Identify in your head which of these activities are legal for an individual to do. So if you said all of them, you're right. Now, which activities would be legal for DKG as an organization? Right. DKG can only do neutral activities, nonpartisan and not related to any candidate. They can relate to specific legislation or policy, actual or pending. But we can do that in a variety of ways. We can testify, we can meet with legislators, we can write letters, submit written testimony. All of those things are available to us. So later in our presentation, we're going to discuss some of the tools that will simplify the advocacy process for you so that you can focus your energy on the content of what you want to say to your legislator or your city councilman or your school board. We'll also provide you with some list of resources that can help you understand the complex issues that are going to be before us so that we can reach some consensus that you'll need before you can advocate as a chapter or a state. But before we do those, I'd like Keitha to take us through an activity that forms the bedrock of our advocacy work. Keitha?
New slide, please. There we go. So how do we handle that advocacy? There's a famous book by George Lakoff called Don't Think of the Elephant, Know Your Values and Frame the Debate. And I've used that as an opening for my civics engagement classes simply because I never know who the participants are, how they vote, or what their views are. And everybody needs to join in the discussion. So by not thinking of the elephant, we can know our values and frame the debate. Let's talk a little bit about those common community values. One of the things that always comes up is making sure that the homeless and the immigrants and children are represented. So let's go into that next slide. So in a few minutes, we're going to be discussing a small group activity and finding out what kinds of things do we want to be an advocate for. When you get to that small group activity, you're going to select a moderator and someone else to be a recorder or reporter. We'll have 15 minutes, and at the end of 12 minutes, I'll give a warning to let you know that it's time to wrap up. You're going to send your notes to Pat when we're finished. But examples of things you might be an advocate for is keeping staff and students safe during the school reopening, equity during online instruction and after schools reopen, women and children's health, voting rights, and other topics. So take it away to the small group activity.
Hey, Joanne.
Hi, Terry, was that you
Yep,
talking?
it's me.
Okay, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to get into this breakout room. I seem to be having problems.
You're here. You're here. So I'm going to ask to start your videos so everybody can see that. And then you guys can control your microphones. And you can see Paula is already there.
Hi, Paula.
Anita. So if you guys
Nichols.
want to discuss, you need a recorder. And then your discussion question is, please discuss issues that need advocacy. And somebody else needs help, so. Barbie, are you not able to get into a group, or you choose not to?
I choose not to.
Gotcha. Okay. Just wanted to make sure that if there was a problem.
Nope.
Gotta find Jessica. Hold on.
For school for picking up materials for the kids to use at home. Now, these are kids who have the electronics, but they're being given, you know, what are they being given to for materials to use? And one woman talked about going to her
Any of us still actively teaching?
No.
I'm working with student teachers. So I work at the college level and I work with student teachers who I had a really
Usually when I teach this class, the first thing that pops up winds up being the homelessness. So how do we help solve that? And there is a legislative committee that's working on that. Terry, did you have anything in your community that you would like to have fixed?
Well, fortunately, I am not teaching. I'm retired and am so thankful that I am right about now.
And now West Valley outside of Yakima are going to go back to school in the next 3 weeks.
So that raises a lot of issues about funding and equity. Just you know, being able to have access. That's a funding issue that that we could advocate for at the local district, but also at the state level. We got a COLA increase last year, so I just want to be I want to be specific about that, though, just for folks' information. I don't know what plan Janet's on or Liz, but it was for Plan 1, and it's a 1 year. It's a 1 year deal.
Yeah.
I'm one, but I'm
Keeping you waiting for funding. Funding is
Plans 2 and 3 are have a built-in COLA increase, but Plan 1 employees don't, and so they got a 1 year increase. So when that 1 year is up, guess what? We need to be back advocating again for.
well, I'm Plan 1 by a month, and I'm at 43 years, and I'm still working. So this is a challenge.
So, but when you decide to retire, your benefits, I mean, your benefits are good, but your cost of living increases aren't there. And,
I tell you, every day I get closer to that word, retirement, doing this computers and this Zooming and this testing and these calendars and that's everything. That word gets closer and closer.
So speaking of Zooming, Pat, how long I didn't set my timer. How much longer? It's 12:02.
I think we went in. Does anybody remember? Do we go in about 7 till? So I think we still have about.
Won't they pop us out?
I'm the person that's going to pop you out. I just
the
need
one
to
that would
know
be popping
when.
us out. And Terry, I was going to be rotating, but I'm not. So apparently, because I'm not fixed up to do that.
It says up above we've been in for 8 minutes 45 seconds.
Okay, so you've got still 7 minutes.
Thank you.
So we still have the Plan 1 COLA to be concerned about, and as well as
Leona and Barbie, it's just the 3 of us in the call. Is there anything you would like to add to the advocacy discussion? We can have our own small group and you don't need to go anywhere if you don't want to.
My blood pressure and my ulcer choose not to, thank you.
Okay, that sounds good. Totally understand. Are you on the east side of the state or in the west side?
Does it matter?
No, I was just wondering what your weather was like. It started to get nice today. It was rainy yesterday.
We're in Yakima and it's not nice. It's overcast, gloomy, cold.
Really? Do you still have
We
smoke?
won't see, oh yeah, we won't see 70 today.
Okay. Wow.
Yes, we do. We still have a fire north of or west of town.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So, yeah, we still have a couple of them still running, so it'll take until the snow flies to get them out.
Yeah.
You know, if without snow or rain, we need, you know, that we need desperately, we won't get rid of the forest fires.
Yeah.
I was raised in Montana.
Okay, there you go.
I'm used. So I kind of, you know, we have the same problem there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was raised on the Rocky Mountain front, so.
There you go. I work with some teachers in South Dakota, and they anticipate snow every year, like on October 1st. So.
Oh, Lordy.
Yeah.
We treated in the snow probably better than half of my growing up years.
Mm-hmm.
But that was 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Weather's not the same as it was.
No, it's not. I feel like Washington State is becoming Southern California, heat-wise. We're getting their animals for
other
sure.
ways too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you both for joining today.
Yes.
It's a long day, but hopefully it's going pretty well. You know, technology can be a little bumpy, and we get that.
You know, for the cost and the hours of travel, this is a much better way to do fall board.
Oh, good. I would definitely put that in the evaluation at the end. You know.
You know, going to the convention once a year is great for, you know, hugging friends and renewing fellowship, but for the hours and hours of travel and the massive expense for everyone involved, this is the way to go. For fall board.
Well, and it's interesting because you're in Yakima, and that's usually where we have fall board.
Well, yeah, here in or used to be Wenatchee, but no, this is, for me, it's not a time or money involved in fall board, but I think about all the people who have to come from both halves of the state, which in my estimation is a small state.
Sure.
My first convention, I had to go 400 miles.
Wow. That's a lot. I know I have to take Friday off of work to get there.
Oh yeah. We drove all day Friday to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so you've been coming for a long time.
Pardon?
You've been a member for a long time.
1979.
Wow, that's great. That's awesome.
I'm a fossil.
No, you're not. You are not. I have members that are older than, who joined earlier than that. I have members that joined that are newer.
Yes.
And in between. So, yeah, it's great.
But as I get older, I see my scope narrowing. I saw it in my dad when he hit 80 and 90. I can surely see it in myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's great. What do you have a favorite memory of a fall board or a state convention?
I don't think so. I take one day at a time and don't worry about the past.
I gotcha. That's good.
The only memory I have is one that's really, really negative. And I wouldn't.
No, we don't want to think about those things. COVID is too much already, and then the fires and everything else. Yeah, no, we're good.
Yeah.
I have another 22 minutes that I need to make sure that everything runs, and then I'm done for the day, except for I have to go to the meeting, which is fine. But yeah.
Well, don't we have some time to get back together as a group?
We do. Yes, when we leave this, I have a couple more minutes, and then I'm going to bring them all back into the group, and they're going to discuss again.
Right.
And then we have this session is set to run until 12:30.
Right.
So yeah.
And it's lunch for an hour and a half and back at 2.
Yeah, basically to get everything reset and ready to go, and yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I really think that next year's fall board, if we do it on Zoom, will even go more smoothly than this. But I think this has gone very well.
oh, well, thank you. I'll let folks know. I mean, there's always a few foibles, you know, just like there is at any time.
The only other suggestion I would have is that the invitation page that we got out, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, I printed out, but it kind of got lost. And it was the only place where I could go to copy and paste the HTTP letters.
Yeah. Okay.
And I had to find it this morning. Last night I got on quickly. This afternoon for this session, I got on quickly, but I missed the 9 o'clock one because for some reason that one didn't copy and paste, and I couldn't get it open, or I wasn't patient enough, one or the other. And so it took me a whole hour to find that one page that had all of the invitations on it.
Sure.
So it would be nice to get it in more than one document.
Right. You know, one of the things, so I work for the University of Washington, and sometimes when I do these, I have 300, 400 people on. And so what I've gone to doing is everybody registers, we send them links a week before, and then we send them the links the day of, earlier that day.
Absolutely.
Just so that it's at the top of their inbox.
Yep.
And then the other thing is the agenda itself. Each session has a link to it, whether it's repeated or not. They still see, I want to go to creative writing. Here's the link.
Yep. Great idea.
So that there's no, everybody is busy, and that's where some of the issues come up.
Well, and we are all so new with this Zoom stuff, and those of us who are 75 and above don't get the daily practice that the classroom teachers get.
Yeah.
And so, for us, it's a little bit more steep of a learning curve. So.
Well, it's very interesting is when Zoom was created a few years ago, the University of Washington, this was the platform we used. So I've been using it for years.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, that makes a whole lot of difference.
Yeah. All right, I need to go in and end the breakout rooms and call them all back. So they're all going to be joining us.
See you later.
All right. Everybody's coming back in. It might help if everybody turned off their cameras. I'm getting some audio issues. So if everybody could turn off their cameras unless they're speaking, that would be very helpful. Thank you so much. Pat, you're speaking next, correct?
Keith is on.
Is okay. So we'll need somebody to show their screen again.
And Paula's on.
Yes, and then Keitha will need to see the screen.
Oh, that's me.
Yep,
that's me. It should have been there still.
Nope, it disappeared when you went in.
Oh, so I've got to go back out, and is that what you're telling me?
No, just share your screen again. go to share screen and then pick back up on your slideshow.
No, my share screen, my slideshow is so big that I can't see my screen.
Then close it down a little bit.
Let's see, let's zoom in. No, it's not doing that. Give me some hints. What do I do to close that down a little bit? It's the full screen. I have access to nothing else.
The ESC, or down at the bottom, it'll say it just ends show.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was going to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can't see anything right now.
Nope, we see a big P for Pat.
Okay.
Pat, you might have to put your video back on. There you go.
Yep, there we go.
We are down on small groups instruction.
Yep.
Those little elevators are so handy. Here we go.
One more slide down.
Shoot. Hang on. It's not even one more slide because mine went all the way.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go. One more.
Oh, we haven't had our report outs, right?
No, we're going to do that right now. But there was, I'll say my part and then we're on that slide.
Go
So
ahead.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming to the small group work today. We would love to hear some of the ideas from your groups. Recorders, Paula Nichols will call on your group to report out. Would you please put your hand up in the participant section right now so she knows who to call on to do the report outs for each group? And they'll report their ideas and any consensus ideas that you have where you all thought the same. We'd like to share these ideas with the whole group, and we'll start, turn off your video and mute your mics for all participants that are not going to do reporting. So Paula, would you please select a hand up and call on that person to report out for their group? Elizabeth is near the top.
Okay, Liz Frederick. We got together and talked about the concern we had for teachers' health in online learning, how teachers are so exhausted, and that this might be something that we could advocate and discuss with our different school boards. Also, there was concern about hybrid Zooming being so responsible for teachers and students, and the difficulty with that issue. That's something else we could deal with as far as school boards are concerned. And funding for equal access for all students related to computers and wireless. And I'll continue to be concerned about mental health issues with our young people, particularly during this time of online learning.
So Elizabeth, thank you for those comments. And we did talk about in our group about the mental health bill that did not make it out of committee last year. What Pat and I will be doing is looking up who the sponsors of that bill were and what work we need to do to make sure that happens. So Paula, thank you so much, Elizabeth. Can you choose another participant? Barbara, I see your hand up. Are you ready?
Yeah. In our group, we talked a lot about equity issues, equity within, about how the issues are at all levels. The question is, how can we make sure that things are equitable within a school, within the school district, and then across the state? And those are three different issues. And we felt like it was important to probably, as a chapter, address those issues locally first, before we tried to join any equity issues at a bigger concern, you know. We also talked about partnering with other organizations who might be working on the same thing. The second part of our time, we talked about safety issues and how complicated those are, and returning to school is not, how people are not seeing enough information to make them comfortable to just go back. And so again, it was kind of a discussion around how we need to, you know, start locally and work our way out from there.
So one of the things, Barbara, that I'll make sure goes in the notes is there is a state legislative committee called the Equal Opportunity Gap Oversight Achievement Committee. Both House and Senate members are members of that committee, but also representatives of all of the minority communities in Washington. And they have been holding online virtual meetings for anyone to attend. And they are trying to address just exactly the things that you shared. So I'll make sure that we get more information about their committee work. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Paula, we need a next candidate. Thank you, Barbara.
How many groups did we have?
I believe 6. I believe Linda Johnson might be ready to report out.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay. How do children come back to school with COVID? Well, our new teachers who've done their student teaching are facing brand new situations in their classroom, but they have more tech skills, and they can help some of the older teachers. I've heard that about my own daughter's school, how they saved their life because they had all the skills to put these things together so quickly. So we need to probably contact them in classrooms to see what are their needs. We can make masks for the children and the teachers because everything costs money. You know, if we can make them and hand them out, that's a better deal. We got more specific when we talked about writing letters to the school board, county commissioners to address equity, to advocate for the computer needs for our children in our school districts. And maybe it's time for us to participate in telephone and town hall meetings to speak up.
That sounds great, Linda. And Linda, I like your idea of masks. We'll have to make sure we get those kinds of things in. And you're right about the newer teachers having more tech savvy than veteran teachers or even the retired people like me. So we'll make sure we get into that. And then the other part of it is making sure that we partner with the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction for those technology coordinators, because they do have departments that do that. Oh. So Linda, would you make sure that you are able to send your notes to Bennett Foreman? Bennett Foreman.
I will.
And her address is up on the screen. Thank you so much. Can we have another group, Terry?
It looks
so
like
we're going to be running out of time, so this will have to be the last group.
So what about group 4 or group 1? It looks like group 4, 1, and 5 have not reported.
I don't remember. I think I was in group 4. This is Paula. And a lot of things that have been said were things that we have said, but we think the biggest thing that we have to deal with and to advocate for is getting rid of this COVID that we have. That is our biggest challenge right now. Another thing we talked about, though, the fact that some students do not have access to the internet, and they have to go somewhere else to get it. And maybe they don't have a car to go drive to where the internet is. So, you know, we need to advocate for those students so they can have computer technology with them. And a lot of teachers are still doing it remotely. Not everybody is in school right now teaching from the school. Some teachers are still teaching remotely, and that makes it so much more difficult because you don't have those people you can call on to help you. Okay.
Paula, thank you very much. And would you send your notes to Pat Bennett Foreman as well
Yes.
for your group? Thanks, everybody. And
If we
Pat,
could just ask anybody who didn't get to report, if you go ahead and send your notes to us too, that would be appreciated.
yeah, Pat, I'm turning it back over to
Yeah.
you.
So we don't have much time, so we're going to go kind of quickly through some advocacy tools, and they hopefully will facilitate your work, whether it's in written form or in person or in some sort of formal testimony. All of these tools will be on the website, and you have the opportunity to learn and receive more training from these tools. Our state organization is co-sponsoring a Speak Up School with the League of Women Voters in February, and these tools will be on some training modules that you'll be have the opportunity to participate in. It's a free workshop, and you'll be sent an email about it in probably in about January. So the first tool that's used is called a handy guide for crafting your message. And it has you first introducing yourself and identifying the credentials or the affiliation that you have. Secondly, you identify your main point, your critical issue. Then thirdly, you try to give your story or something that communicates about why this issue is important to you personally. The fourth is to provide some facts, some evidence to support your position. And then finally, to tell them what it is you're asking them to do. So it's a very simple tool to help you remember the essential elements of effective testimony. We also have a template that will provide you all the content areas you need for a one-page summary that you can leave with your legislator or school board rep or whomever. And that's a really easy process to use when it's all set out like this.
Can I add something to that, Pat?
Sure.
This is the template that we've used in the Washington State School Retirees Association when we go to visit a legislator. And I have had a lot of comments from elected officials on how quick and easy and to the point this format is. This is a very important form for you to know. Because of COVID, they were not accepting paper copies of this last year, but we could email our finished forms in if we scheduled a conference with them, or you send it to them with an email. So thanks, Pat.
Yeah, and we'll have the template and some samples of this online. Another tool is just a kind of a fill in the blank. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is, I vote in the such and such a district and where you're located. I'd like to draw your attention to the issue of. It uses very straightforward language that you can use when you're either in-person meeting with somebody or testifying before a group. Now, a lot of the testimony these days is done online, and you can join a webinar and sign up to testify. It's videotaped and sent into the commission. So just because you don't live near Olympia doesn't mean you can't testify. That's the process that they're using now to get input from all over the state. Another thing that you'll find in your toolbox are some tips that will help you to prepare in advance on how to present yourself professionally but naturally. And then hopefully that'll take away some of the nervousness that people get. People are afraid about, oh, I don't know how to do this. These things will help you. Keith is going to share some resources.
Yeah, also on the state website under resources and advocacy, we will be posting lists of agencies and organizations that are related to the work that you may choose to work on. So education policies and legislation, women and children's health, civic engagement, voting, and any other categories that we have, you'll find those resources in those categories. So The one that I work the most closely with is the Washington State School Retirees Association. And then the one that I want to point out to you specifically is Know Your Rights at School, and it was done by the Badass Teachers Association. And this gives information for workplace events and safety during COVID, and also the childcare needs that people use. And then the US Forum on the 29th, there is a US Forum webinar that you can attend to see how that is set up at the national level. Pat? Next slide. So these all pertain to women and children's health. What are the organizations where you can find resources to give out to your families in the community and for the children that you have worked with or will be working with? Those will also be up as well. For civic engagement, there are two really important ones. ledge.wa.gov is our state information site for the legislature. And for the League of Women Voters, farther down, it's vote411.org. If you have friends or relatives that live in other parts of the country, send them the vote411.org, and it will help them find who their elected officials are. Okay, Pat? So for voting resources, the Secretary of State website is wonderful. There's a shortcut called votewa.gov. And that tells you how to look up your own voter registration. That's the second link on the screen. And then there are dates and deadlines for different things to happen. So there's a 18-day voting period through Election Day, and it starts October 16th, and our ballots should be arriving starting on October 13th. And you can still register right up to the day of election, in person only, or the day before online. So people need to know that if they find they're not registered. Check your voter registration. So Fix Democracy First has become my very favorite friend and partner in educating people about what happens. Slay the Dragon is about gerrymandering in Michigan. Gerrymandering means unfair voting maps. And then Suppression, the Fight to Vote, is something that the League of Women Voters will be sponsoring, and DKG a little later in the month. So how do we keep that momentum? It's just like eating an elephant. Start slow and make sure that you eat the elephant one bite at a time. Advocacy work is the same way. How do they vote on issues that matter to you? Know who your local officials are and which bills do they sponsor and who donates to their campaigns. Thanks, Pat.
So I've already talked about the Speak Up School, just to let you know, again, there'll be some opportunities there. Another opportunity that, Keitha, did you want to address this?
Sure. In October, DKG WSO is going to sponsor this movie, and it's free. There will also be ways. Robert Greenwald believes in sharing this with everyone. He's put it on YouTube, but he likes to have you ask for permission to use it, and he doesn't want it shared like on Facebook as a free enterprise. It should be an organized event. It is the film that opened up my eyes about the corruption in voting rights. It is a must-watch film. And Pat, I know that the board is deciding when this is going to be hosted. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we'll be sharing you information to you about this very interesting film. So we've run out of time. So if you still have some burning questions, if you can leave those in chat, we'll try to get to those. I want to thank you for attending this. I know we have a poll now that's going to be popping up. Thanks, folks.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. Now, we are going to, I believe, have the poll pop up. And there it is. And And if you will just complete that, we will appreciate it. While you're doing that, I do want to mention at the beginning of our session, Keitha gave some links to finding out who your legislatures are. So you might want to look at that. I think she gave 2 or 3 of them for you. Again, I want to thank everyone for attending, and I really want to thank Pat and Keitha for doing an excellent, excellent job. I learned so much, and I want to thank Terry for helping with the technology. So thank you, and I believe we will see you all after lunch at 2 o'clock. Yeah, 2 o'clock. So be sure that you join back in.
Great. Thank you, Paula. And thank you for an excellent job moderating. Pat and Keitha, are you willing to take a few questions? It looks like almost everyone has filled out the poll, which is great. And if people are willing to stick around, are you willing to stick around, say, for 5 minutes?
I am willing to stick around. I just want to get so I can see people.
All right.
So I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay, sounds good.
And can we unmute all those people who want to talk?
Well, they can unmute themselves.
Okay.
And if they crash the system, we're all being recorded, so everybody will see you and hear you. So,
if somebody wants to start with a question, we're a small enough group.
Yeah, this is wave your hand type. So I saw Francis's hand first.
Okay. I ended up being the moderator for my group, and I hadn't taken much in the way of notes. If I could have had a list of the things we were supposed to have discussed, it would have helped me.
Yeah, it actually was on the very, very top, but it was very small and hard to read, so apologies.
Okay, but good information. Thank you.
Yeah, Francis, it depends on your community. That's what happens in the group. Everybody talked about something from their community that needed legislative fixing.
Yeah.
Okay, another hand?
Either real or virtual.
You're all muted at this point, so unmute yourselves. Sarah.
I just wanted to say thank you for kind of laying out what level of advocacy we can do about what subjects, like which ones are, you know, individual, which ones are more like, hey, as a chapter, we can advocate for this, you know, especially to help with the political and social and personal divides and stuff like that. So thank you for really ironing out what we can do at what level of advocacy.
So to those of you who are left, I am going to post that resource for childcare services and Know Your Rights, and it will be on the state website. And it's an important one to share in your community, especially for active teachers who have gone back to work, and for parents and even educators who need childcare during this time teaching.
Barbara, did you have a question or comment or?
Oh, I was just going to say, all those websites and resources on your PowerPoint, are you sharing those?
Yeah, they're going to be on the state website under Resources Advocacy.
Okay.
Otherwise, it would have been way too overwhelming. And because we were kind of rushed there at the end, we didn't get to say that the value of those is that you can go in and they have positions or position papers, or they have pros and cons on various positions. And so you can really get a lot of information and determine and discuss that, you know, at your chapter level and decide what your position is going to be, and then fill out those little forms very quickly and easily by using, you know, that kind of piece.
The other offer for that, Barbara, is I'm available. ksbryson2533@gmail.com, You can contact me anytime you want to. If you want me to do a virtual webinar for your chapter, I will. Or if you have questions on how to access something.
Yeah.
Keitha does a really good job with taking that breakout session that we had and getting your group to talk about its common values and therefore what advocacy stands you might want to take.
Yeah, I find that when I contact my legislators or my representatives or senators, to, you know, the way they respond to me does influence the way I look at their candidacy, because sometimes I have sent, you know, asked a question or given an opinion, and if my legislator never bothers to get back to me, that really does not make me want to vote for them, because they're supposed to represent the people. And so, yeah, it is interesting to contact legislators. Some of them are very responsive. And
I'll tell you something that our chapter did. Actually, we did this with a congressional person, but we've also done it with our local legislators. Invited them to speak, invited them to our teacher honoring program, where they just gave a little 5-minute thank you. We appreciate teachers, and helped pass out roses. And educated them a little bit about who we were. And now when we contact them, they know who we are and they listen. And in fact, our federal congressional representative wrote me a little thank you note back that said, let me know if there's anything I can do for you with DKG. And so that making those kinds of personal contacts as an organization, getting them involved, they know where the votes are coming from. So
yeah, it's also a thing where if you have a